Hey there, we've made it through the 7th week of quarantine, and it is Saturday, so I am here with another quadruple feature that I have programmed if you'd like to join for watching any of these movies throughout the day and evening. So times are pretty crazy right now. Our death toll for the coronavirus is around 59,000. Surpassing the entire amount of American casualties in the 10-year span of the conflict in Vietnam. The president thinks people are being too mean to him. He's essentially told every state that they're on their own, which is great leadership. And we have dipshits out in the streets protesting the lockdown, demanding that people go back to work at restaurants and opening up hair salons so they can get haircuts because they're idiots, and they're comparing themselves to like a modern day Rosa Parks, which is just the most ridiculous thing ever, because they're not really fighting for anything. They're not fighting for our right. They're just morons. And if you're one of those idiots, don't watch my movie recommendations. You don't deserve them. Go back home and stay inside. So the world is really crazy right now. There's a lot of insanity, and our theme for today, we're just going to lean right into it. We're doing batshit crazy horror films to really reflect the batshit crazy times that we're in right now. So the first movie that we're going to watch is really the most batshit crazy horror film ever made. One of the craziest films ever made. We're going to watch Nobuhiko Obayashi's gonzo masterpiece, Hasu. House is one of the wildest films that you'll ever see. I strongly encourage anyone to watch this. This movie uses every technique imaginable. It uses matte paintings, it uses animation, it uses practical effects, double exposure. It uses everything. Slow motion. Every scene is something different. And when you watch this movie, it's very inspiring and crazy to see how many different tricks he's employing, how he's trying to make every single scene totally unique to anything that you've really seen before. This cat on the cover is famous, is kind of become like an iconic figure for the cinematic world. I'm actually wearing a shirt now that combines this image with Hello Kitty and kind of perverts Hello Kitty, but that's from Hasu. It's a very, very inspirational film. I watch it every few years. There's really nothing like it, and this is just a reflection of what's going on today. You're gonna watch this movie and be like, hey, that's America right now. That's insane. So kind of forget your worries and fall into one of the craziest films that you'll watch, Hasu. Okay, movie number 2 is Mick Garris's 1992 bonkers cat werewolf movie, Sleepwalkers. Sleepwalkers has an original script by Stephen King, not based on any previous material that he wrote. It's just an idea that he created completely out of his head. And it is probably Stephen King's craziest screenplay, aside from Maximum Overdrive, that he wrote and directed. Directorial, it's the only movie that Stephen King directed back in the 80s. And I think this movie is a little crazier than that. The filmmaker, Mick Garris, is a terrific podcaster, a really good interviewer. He's probably most famous for his 90s adaptation miniseries of The Stand. But this movie is the standout for me. I loved it as a kid, and I still get a kick out of it. It's got everything. There's really great, gory, practical effects. It's got, of course, cat werewolf type people. The transformations are digital, but they look pretty smooth. They're kind of like the transformations in Michael Jackson's Black or White music video. It's got Shelley from Twin Peaks. It has cameos from Mark Hamill, John Landis, Joe Dante, Clive Barker, Stephen King himself, and it has an exquisite use of an Enya song, a really inspired choice for kind of a thematic tune that links throughout the entire film. The best use of Enya music until Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's just a really bizarre choice to accompany a really, really crazy film. The movie also has incest. Right off the bat, within 10 minutes, a kid is making out with his mom, and from that point on, you're like, I don't really know what we're in store for, but you are in store for a wild-ass movie. 1992's Sleepwalkers by Mick Garris. Okay, our first movie, House, was from the 70s, 1977. Our second movie, we jumped up to the 90s. Now we're going back to the 80s. 1982, we are going to watch Frank Henenlotter's directorial debut, the amazing, crazy Basket Case. Basket Case is about a guy who goes to New York carrying around a wicker basket, and nobody knows what's in the basket, but we do. It's his previously conjoined twin, separated at birth, named Belial, and he's a monster. He's got a couple arms, a torso, a head, and he's quite frightening looking. So it's a monster movie. Belial crawls out of his basket and he kills people. They animate him with a combination of puppetry and stop motion animation, so it's quaint and retro, but also at times unsettling. It's a crazy cult classic. The movie is a lot of fun, and you know it's classy because a few years ago it got a beautiful 4K restoration by the Museum of Modern Art. They actually went and restored this movie because it is a time capsule of the past. And the movie actually does have a lot of importance because this really wonderfully showcases in old school New York, especially Times Square and the seedier areas of New York that have since been kind of Disneyfied and cleaned up. This movie filmed a lot in New York, in a lot of the seedier areas where there were like porno theaters on every corner. So it's a New York of a bygone era that we can't go back and visit, but we can see it in films like Basket Case or Maniac or...
You don't have this app. You can just...
Man, fuck you. Okay, fourth movie in our batshit crazy horror quadruple feature is Joe Dante's absolutely bananas sequel to his film Gremlins, Gremlins 2: The New Batch. He throws so many bizarre elements into this film. It's truly one of the most avant-garde studio release horror films that I've ever seen. He really pushes the limits for what he could get away with, including in a movie. So it's really insane to think that this actually did get released in theaters with the amount of bizarre, disparate elements that he put in the film. In fact, it's so wild and off the beaten path that Key and Peele, in their sketch comedy show, they have an entire sketch dedicated to how insane the movie is, because it really is off the wall. It's a lot of fun. The puppets are great. All of the puppet effects that they have for the massive amounts of different types of gremlins, and it's a lot of fun. I think it's a perfect way to cap off our night of quarantine quadruple features of batshit crazy horror movies. Gremlins 2: The New Batch by Joe Dante.